So I loved how natural and organic and the serendipitousness of how you arrived at this conversation around energy, because really it's a question of having the energy is important. It's paramount. It's number one. But Erin, is it possible? Is it sustainable to be at 10 all the time? And talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So what's interesting in our study is that we found there are really 5 key types of energy that people is their fastest scientific shortcut to personal power,
Is
right?
that the power
And
grid that you've developed?
yes,
Okay.
yes. You doing your homework. You're a good podcast host. That's wonderful. Thank you for that prompt. Yes, the power grid shows the sources and spaces of energy. And the problem is when we try to tap into all the sources and all the spaces, that's when we get all the things anxiety, the overwhelm, the frustration. That's when we throw in the towel and just say, well, we're just burnt out, the end, give up. So what Power Grid helps you figure out is it's a 5-minute assessment, the energy exam that you take. And you discover basically that, yes, if you can do all of those things, spiritual, emotional, mental, social, if you can do all those things all the time, great. If you can feel in control, confident, connected all the time, great. But most of us aren't able to really realistically do that. And so the Power Grid helps you to show your fastest path to power, your intersection of your fastest source and space that you need to power up and bring your best, even especially when you don't feel like it. And even especially when you don't have time to sleep 9 hours, eat kale till the cows come home, and drink those Cheer You On Amazon gallon water bottles. There's a lot of wellness advice out there. And the conversation that I'm having with my work is not really about wellness and sleep more. It's really about how do you manage your mental energy to be able to bring your best. And what we found is that the 5 different energy types, certain energy types are just naturally higher vibe than others. So for example, if you have kinetic energy, your fastest path to power is you need a challenge. You need to compete. So your baseline energy level is much higher perceived by others than if you have responsive energy.
And
Responsive energy,
kinetic for the middle schooler, that wasn't cool either. Just movement. You need a lot of physicality. Is that
the more
literally
you're
what
in
you mean?
motion, the more you're in motion, the more energy you get. So these are the signs that have seemingly endless energy, but the shadow side is they're also the ones that burn out the hardest because they don't
Mm,
stop until they physically have to. So on the other hand, you have responsive energy, and their fastest path to power is they need space. These are the deep empaths, the processors. So they don't come across as the same level of energy as the kinetics. But what's important to know as a leader in today's world is that leaders tend to manage their teams the way they like to be managed. They tend to show up. And so if you're a kinetic, you're probably an athlete. I'm kinetic. So I played Division I lacrosse at Maryland. So I like getting yelled at. I like someone giving me the more the clock's ticking down, the more excited I get. Well, my husband's the total opposite. If the clock's ticking down and someone's yelling at him, he falls apart. That does not give him energy. He's the total opposite. He needs space to process and
right.
think and go away. And his energy doesn't seem as high as mine,
The
but his
kinetic
fully
is
charged
more.
battery
The
is fully
kinetic for
charged.
him is more in his gray matter.
Well, yes, and I think it's important to note that if you're managing someone like my husband, where it seems he's more of the cerebral, esoteric, your deep thinker, it's not fair to categorize someone like that as they're lower energy. They're not. For them, that's them fully charged, and so it's
Right.
about meeting people where they are, and that's why understanding each of their fastest paths to power is so huge. So, for example, Sarge that you met on my team. So she has generative energy. Her fastest path to energy is she needs to be creating. She loves a whiteboard session. She loves a blank page. So whenever I have us in too much of a rinse and repeat, too much of a process where I'm like, this is happy days, everything's smooth. It's a rhythm. We're running, get the process. She gets a little bit passive aggressive. She'll write the per my last email because
Mhm.
she needs to be able to create. So I know
As
as a
as I
manager,
mentioned earlier.
yes, exactly. Right. So I know as a manager, because I can't remember all these Myers-Briggs and StrengthsFinder and TNIJ and the 7 and the green. There's so many personality things. I'm like, I can't remember all that in the fly, on the moment, in the fly, when everyone is melting down. I need to know I have one word for each person on my team, and I click that lens to make a small tweak. So for Sarge, I know she has to create. So for her, I stop and I look at everything on her plate, and I'm like, where is there room for her to get creative? Where can I say, hey, can you untangle this necklace over here with a new idea? Boom, she powers right back up. Now, someone else on my team, her name's Lou, she's synergistic energy. So her fastest path to power is connection. So when she works remotely. So whenever she starts to do sort of those passive aggressive emojis or tech, you can just feel when they're starting to check out. I know
Right.
it's because she's working too much in a silo. She hasn't been able to connect to others or the bigger mission. So I know it's
Right.
time to have an in-person
Right.
all hands. I invite her out. We all sit down. We have a big night. We had the chats. And then boom, she's back in the game for like 6 more months. So just knowing how to manage your teams based on their energy, it's so helpful because that is really what we bring that AI can't. I mean, look at all these LinkedIn posts, Seth. It's like everyone's copying and pasting the same
Yeah.
AI
Yeah.
slop that's just
Yeah.
short, punctuated sentences with emojis. And it's, ultimately, when someone sends me an email or a text or even on social media, is this even them? Am I even talking to you or am I just talking to AI? And so that's why energy, like an exchange we're having here with video conferencing, energy never lies. No one can copy it. It is our last truth teller. And if trust is at the heart of transaction, this is all we have left. And it's an energetic exchange. I mean, energy is not something that you have, it's not an entity that you possess. Not to get too nerdy and, physicist
Bring the nerd.
science. Okay.
Bring the nerd.
But so the first law of thermodynamics, which many people know, is that energy cannot be created or destroyed, right? So energy is not actually an entity that you possess. It's an experience that you process. It's a process. It's a transfer. Think of it more like water, right? So when you think about saying someone has good energy, what you're really referring to is the exchange, the active listening, the eye contact, the warmth, the joking, you and I having rapport before you hit record about our mutual love for Latin American languages and culture. So that's the energy. And so when you're feeling low vibe, yes, of course, you need to sweat, eat clean, and sleep. We know this. But really, you can be in the best physical shape of your life. But if you are not unblocking access to this experience of flow with others, you're going to still feel drained, even if you're following all the wellness hacks that Instagram tells you have to do. And
Yeah.
what's crazy is that our study found that if you do more than 4.5 energizing activities a day, calling a friend, cup of coffee, take a breath, sweat, that's 4 right there. When you actually do more than that, when you try to do all these things that everyone's telling us all the time, red light therapy, sauna, our energy goes down and so does our life satisfaction score. So
Right.
more is not more because effort and energy have an inverse relationship. Effort's expensive. So it's about figuring out how to unblock. And there's kind of like 3 key areas we talk about, but there's 3 places where you unblock access to that experience so that you can show up and bring your best and be magnetic and be persuasive and be kind. And people can't help but be drawn to you when you're showing up, firing at your best. And it's not about matching my crazy energy level or mimicking someone else's style. It's that authenticity that we can't fake because people know they can feel. You've gotten into an elevator with someone, you've been behind them in line, or you sat next to them on a plane, and you have not said a word, but you know exactly how they are feeling because their energy introduces them far before anything is exchanged verbally. And the same goes for business. I mean, we're always, you get on a Zoom call with, and you can just see, you can do a scan of the Zoom call, and you can, before anyone says a word, who you're like, okay, here we go. Let's
Yeah.
saddle up, right?
So true. So true.
Yeah.
So true. It's like a timestamp or a signature or a thumbprint, your energy print, right?